All right, welcome. In this explainer, we're going to peel back the curtain on something you use every single day but probably never see. The invisible shields that protect our digital lives. Yeah, I'm talking about everything from your bank account to your private messages. We're going to uncover the seriously ingenious math that keeps all your secrets safe.
So really think about that for a second. How is all that stuff? Your passwords, your bank details, your private messages, how is it actually kept secret online? You know, it's a question we should probably all be asking, and the answer, well, it isn't magic. It all comes down to this incredible field called cryptography. It's basically the silent guardian of our entire digital world.
And this quote, this really gets to the heart of it. The whole philosophy here isn't about hiding how you lock something up. It's not security through obscurity. No. The real goal is to build a lock that is so mathematically strong, so tough, that you could literally hand the blueprints over to the world's best safecracker and they still couldn't open it. Not without that one unique key.
Okay, so let's get into our first section, the Unbreakable Digital Safe. We're going to talk about why the world basically had to invent a whole new standard for secrecy. In this story, it really begins with the old guard falling apart and this urgent, desperate need for a replacement.
So just look at this timeline. It really shows you how urgent this problem was. You have this old workhorse, the Data Encryption Standard, or DES. For a long time, it was good enough, but then in 1997, it's cracked in 96 days. A year later, a machine called DeepCrack does it in just 56 hours. That's scary. The main lock for the entire digital world was basically broken, and we needed a replacement like yesterday.
So, what do you do when your main lock is broken? Well, the US government did something pretty cool. They held a global, open competition to find a successor. And the winner was this absolutely brilliant algorithm called RINDIAL, which we now know as the Advanced Encryption Standard, or AES. And let me tell you, this thing is everywhere. It is the standard today. It's protecting top-secret government documents, sure, but it's also protecting your Wi-Fi, your online banking, even your Netflix stream.
So how does it actually work? Well, it's sometimes called the four-step dance of confusion for a reason. AES takes your data and puts it through multiple rounds of these 4 steps. It swaps things out, shifts them around, mixes them all up, and then injects a piece of the secret key. Imagine taking a deck of cards and just completely scrambling it in a very specific, complex way over and over again. It creates this beautiful mathematical chaos that is just impossible to reverse unless you know the exact steps of the dance. And that's the key.
All right. So, locking up data, check. We've got a great solution for that with AES. But what about a totally different kind of problem? How do you build trust between strangers online? I mean, how do you exchange something of value, like digital money, without having a bank or some other middleman in the middle to verify everything?
Well, the solution, and this is the genius behind technologies like Bitcoin, it all starts with this amazing tool called a cryptographic hash. The best way to think about it is like a unique digital fingerprint for data. You can feed it a whole book or just a single word, and it spits out a unique fingerprint. Now here's the crazy part. If you change just one single letter in that book, the fingerprint becomes completely unrecognizably different. And, this is key, it's a one-way street. You can't take the fingerprint and figure out what the original data was. No way.
And that little trick is how you get the chain in blockchain. It's so clever. Okay, so you gather up a bunch of transactions into a block, right? Then you create that block's unique fingerprint, its hash. But here's the magic trick. You take that fingerprint and you bake it into the next block in the chain before you create its fingerprint. See what's happening? You're creating this unbreakable cryptographic seal, chaining each block to the one that came right before it. And this is precisely what makes the whole thing immutable, or basically unchangeable. Think about it. If some bad guy tried to go back and alter a transaction in, say, block 10, that would change its fingerprint, its hash. But wait, that hash is part of block 11. So now block 11's hash is wrong, which breaks block 12, and so on. It's like a domino effect. To change the past, you'd have to redo an absolutely impossible amount of computer work for the entire rest of the chain. It just can't be done.
Okay, next challenge, and this is a big one for the world we live in today. How do we get smaller keys but stronger security? I mean, we need to secure our connections on the go, right? On our phones, our smartwatches, all these little devices. They need top-tier security for sure, but they don't have the horsepower of a giant server. So how do you get super strong security without completely draining the battery? And this table, this right here is the wow moment. This is Elliptic Curve Cryptography, or ECC.
Just look at these numbers. To get what we call 128 bits of security, which is really, really strong, the old standard, RSA, needs a key that's over 3,000 bits long, okay? Now look at ECC. It gets you the exact same level of security with a key that's only 256 bits. That's not just a little better. That is a massive difference. It's a game changer. And look, this isn't just some nerdy technical detail. This efficiency is the reason you can have strong, fast security on your phone without it feeling slow or killing your battery. Smaller keys mean less number crunching for your phone's processor, and that means faster connections, less power usage, and longer battery life. Honestly, ECC is kind of the unsung cryptographic hero that powers so much of our modern mobile world. Okay, so let's recap. We've talked about protecting data when it's just sitting there, data at rest, and we've talked about protecting it when it's moving across the internet, data in transit, but what about the final frontier? What about protecting data while it's actually being used? This is what some people call computing blindfolded, and it's one of the absolute toughest challenges in all of cryptography.
Let's frame this with a classic puzzle to see why it's so hard. Imagine 3 people want to find out their average salary, but, and this is the important part, none of them are willing to reveal their actual salary to anyone else. I mean, that sounds completely impossible, right? How can you calculate an average without knowing the numbers? Well, there's a wild technique called multi-party computation, or MPC, that solves this with an incredibly clever trick.
Okay, get this. It's just brilliant. Each person takes their secret salary and splits it into 3 random numbers that add up to the original. They keep one of those random numbers for themselves and give the other 2 away, one to each colleague. So now everyone is holding 3 random-looking numbers. They add up the numbers they're holding, and then they combine those totals, and out pops the correct average. Nobody ever sees anyone else's salary. By splitting the secret into meaningless shares, they can compute the final result while keeping the original inputs totally private. It's genius. Now that MPC trick is awesome when you have a few friends who all agree to cooperate. But what about a different scenario? What if you need to send your private, sensitive data to some giant cloud server, a powerful third party, to run a really complex calculation for you? You don't want them to see your data. That's where we run into what many people call the true holy grail of cryptography. It's called fully homomorphic encryption, or FHE, and the concept is just mind-blowing. It is a revolutionary kind of encryption that lets a computer operate on the locked box without ever opening it. I love this analogy. It's like a surgeon performing a delicate operation on a patient who is inside a locked, completely opaque glove box. The surgeon can do all the work, can manipulate everything inside, but can never actually see the patient. The server gets your encrypted data, does the math on it while it's still encrypted, and sends you back an encrypted result. Only you, with your key, can unlock the final answer. So as we wrap up, think about the journey we've just been on. We've built these incredible layers of digital trust. We started with AES, this unbreakable safe against brute force attacks. Then we built immutable ledgers with blockchain. We even have this futuristic promise of computing completely blindfolded with FHE. But the big takeaway, the thing to really leave you with, is this question: what happens next? Because today's unbreakable shields, they were built to fight today's computers. What happens when a totally new kind of computer arrives? The race for security, it never, ever ends. And with quantum computing on the horizon, a whole new chapter for these digital guardians is just beginning.